I mean, nowadays, if you see any specific tool with respect to reporting, with respect to your database, apart from these two, we also require cloud on almost every point of our data point of perspective. So why is it important? All this concepts you will get an idea. Um, so prior to this, let's understand what exactly the cloud is and how useful is it for a data analyst. Now, starting with the agenda for today's session is the why exactly the cloud computing. So, if you think about cloud computing, first we need to think about some legacy on-premise systems. Now, what legacy on-premise systems are, why there is a drawback in legacy on-premise systems, and with this drawback, how can we improve ourselves? So, I mean, with the introduction of cloud, legacy systems would be kind of outdated. We can come across many cloud aspects also, and it is easier to connect. In case if you compare the on-premise systems with any online cloud services, it is also easier to connect. Now we have to think, how is it easier? First, understand legacy, then go back to the cloud. Now, apart from legacy systems, we would be seeing few drawbacks of Power BI. Not this, you cannot call it as a drawback. This you can call it as a limitation of Power BI at a certain data level. In Power BI, we're trying to connect. We're trying to connect any specific tool. I mean, any specific data source. In that case, there are few limitations in Power BI also. So we are going to see that limitations as well from the data point of perspective, and why Azure or why cloud is required to connect to the Power BI. I mean, if you use a cloud, how can you improve yourself while connecting any specific data source? Now that we are going to see. At the end, why wireless and seamless connectivity with the help of cloud can help us um, improving the efficiency of any particular reporting tool. And at the last, we would be seeing few insights related to the infrastructure of a cloud, how cloud infrastructure is, how can we change, how can we improve ourselves. And with this help of infrastructure, we can build many applications, we can build many services in the cloud. So just to get started with a, a basic example I'm trying to take. See, if you take an example of any specific device, now let's take an example of mobile. Now, what exactly a mobile is? It's just a device where we can use, where we can call, where we can do all our multitasking, including we can take pictures. Now, this is an example of Apple. Now, Apple in the sense, it's the 15 Pro model with 1 GB of storage. The maximum storage which you get in any specific mobile device is 1 TB or 1 TB of storage. Now, the 1 TB of storage, if at all it is required, is just an example. So 1 TB is somewhere around 100 GB. So 111, it's around 100 GB. And if I take an example of mobile, see, the maximum limit is 1 TB. And if you're using this same mobile for all your multitasking, including you are a very fond of clicking pictures, you use it for your office, you use it for your daily work, you use it to store your information. So there is a certain limit. If after 1 TB of storage, if you're using this specific device, you cannot increase the storage capacity of that device. So from the Apple point of perspective, if you're using the 15 Pro Max model, there is no option to add a memory card to it. I mean, if the limit of storage is beyond 1 TB, if at all it is going beyond 1 TB, you cannot increase the storage. Now, the only option which is left is take a new device. Now, even after taking another 1 TB of storage, if that storage is also full, at certain point, if that storage is also full, similarly, you'll take one more device. Now, if you're trying to take multiple Apple devices, somewhere each device for 1 TB of storage will cost you around 2 lakhs. In Indian rupees, 1 TB 15 Pro Max price is around 2 lakhs. Now, if you take a combination of three different devices, only if you take a combination of three different devices, somewhere it would be around 6 lakhs. 2 plus 2 plus 2, it's around 6 lakhs, which is very costly. From an individual point of perspective, for just to get an additional storage, if you want to increase the additional storage, there is no option in Apple. You cannot use a memory card. Either you go with a new device, and if you purchase a new device, around three devices will cost you around 6 lakhs. It's very costly. And even if that three devices are not set, not enough, you go on carrying, you go on adding additional devices, which would be very, very costly. Now, the maximum size for these three devices is also around 3 dB. Just an example, I'm taking only three devices, which are legacy systems. If I increase the storage for any specific device, it would be around 1 TB only, and there is no option. Either we need to increase an additional device. Now, if I take an example of any other device, now Apple, we do, as an Apple, we doesn't use it, or maybe there is no option to increase the additional storage in the same device. If I take an example of Samsung, for S24, it's just a 1 TB model. Even in S24 Galaxy, we get 1 TB model, and there is a flexibility. We can add an additional storage with the help of additional memory card. Now, even for a memory card, I want to increase the storage of this device. If I want to increase the storage, I can add one memory card. I can add an additional one memory card, but one at a time. Maybe the other memory card which I was using, the limit is completed. We have to remove that and get a new device or get a new storage, a new memory card. Now, similarly, if that 1 TB is also completed, if that 1 TB is also utilized, again, we have to get it. So whichever device you're taking, there is a certain limit for storage. Now, storage in the sense, we have to additionally take care about our any specific device or any specific storage we are using. We have to additionally take care about the device which we are using, the mobile device. So all these processes have to be manually handled. Now, similarly, 3 TB for three different additional memory cards and 1 TB of your Galaxy, it would be around 4 TB. But if I want to increase the size of any specific storage even more than 1 TB, there is a certain limit. You have to go on adding new and new memory cards, which is simply waste of money. Even for a single memory card with 1 TB, you have to spend around 10,000. Now, for an Apple, we are spending 2 lakhs. For Samsung Galaxy, it's around 1,60,000, 1 TB, and the additional memory cards would be around 10,000. So on an average, accepted, we are spending low as compared to Apple on an Android or an Samsung device, but still we are spending around 2 lakhs. Now, if I simply take an example of cloud, you can do all this. You can increase your memory, you can increase your size with the help of any clouds we are using. Now, how is it possible? See, if I just take an example of any specific cloud service. Now, this is just a Google Cloud. If you simply mention, see, for 2 TB, we are only spending 650 per month. We are getting an additional storage of 2 TB apart from our any specific storage we have. We want to push this information. We want to push our information, any specific information to the cloud. You get an additional 2 TB of storage. We are only spending 650 per month, which would be approximately 650 into 12 for a year. It would be 6,500 plus another 1,200. So it would be around 7,700 or 7,800. If you compare an example of Apple, if you compare an example of Samsung, where we are spending 2 lakhs, where we are spending 6 lakhs, we are only spending some 7,800 rupees on an additional storage, which is nothing but a cloud. The Google one is nothing but a cloud. So cloud, this is where the cloud comes into picture. This is where the cloud help us. The costs, the revenue is one of the most frequently or one of the most important aspect which will help us to improve, which will help us to connect from anywhere if you're using this cloud. Revenue is one of the biggest feature. Revenue is one of the biggest benefit of a cloud. Including revenue, see, we are additionally handling all these devices. We have to take care. If we are adding a new device, we have to take care of that device. In few of the cases, if the device is not working or if the device is corrupted, so we have to go back and see whether the data is correct or not, whether our data is available or not. Whereas in case of cloud, we only take subscription of a cloud and all other processes are handled by the cloud manufacturer or the cloud, the company's cloud which we are using. So if I take an example of Google only, in case of Google, you are spending 650 per month, 7,800, your data is completely safe here. because you need not monitor the cloud. You need not take care about the cloud. All processes, all anything related to cloud can be taken by care by the Google. Now, this is just an example. These are legacy systems. With that legacy systems, if I use a cloud will definitely improve the process. Now, just to get an idea, we have seen how legacy systems we have to take care and how cloud will improve the process. Now, we would be seeing the importance of or the limitations of Power BI. Power BI is one of the most powerful tool accepted, but there are few limitations. Now, what all limitations are? Just to get started with, let me open Power BI, where you'll get a basic understanding how and what all limitations are there. See here, these are some limitations. Now, limitations means these are some restrictions in Power BI. If the certain data source is going beyond a certain size, we cannot add that data, or maybe there is very complex to add that data to the Power BI. You cannot handle that large chunk of data in Power BI. Now, how large chunk of data is not handled? Let's see an example. So this is my Power BI, and in this Power BI, if I want to connect to some of the cloud services. Now, I'm not sure how many of you know this specific tool. Let me open this, you'll get an idea. How many of you know about this specific tool? If you're a working professional, if you know Power BI, you're working in any organization, or maybe you might have heard this tool, Jira. This tool is basically a project management tool. Whatever you do, if you're a working professional, you're working in any specific team. In case of Agile environment, this tool is one of the widely used project management tool where all your project related activities are added. Now, assume that you're working in uh, a data reporting, or you're working in as a data analyst where the source is coming from Jira only. You want to track how many people are working on which work items, how many people have work items pending in their bucket, and how many people have completed their assigned work items. Just to get an idea, this is a project management tool and you're working as a HR professional, or maybe you're working as a HR data analyst, where you want to track all this information, project analysis information. Now, if I open Power BI, click on more, see, this is more a kind of get data from multiple data sources. Now, I want to connect the data from Jira. Let me see if there is an option to connect from Jira. See, I've only mentioned Jira, which is a tool. There is no option to connect Jira here. My data source is Jira. From this Jira, which is a project management tool, I want to connect the data to Power BI. So if I want to connect, there is no option or there is no connector in Power BI to connect to a project management tool. Most of the tools, if I take an example of any project management tool, see, I'm mentioning project, plan view, project place. See, you can import from this specific tool, plan view tool, or plan view as a service, and you can only connect with open source, some of the open source project, which is still a beta version. Apart from these two tools, there are no other tools, there are no other options you cannot, I mean, you can connect with. Now, there is also a tool called as Zoho. This is Zoho Creator. There is a tool called as Zoho, which is a project management tool. So you want to connect your data, you want to connect your project related information from these project related or project management tools to a Power BI. There is no option to connect. This is one drawback. I mean, the number of connectors are, even though there are 100 different connectors available, you can see there are still 100 different connectors available. But still, this is a drawback. If you want to connect to certain data source, which is not a connector in Power BI, you cannot connect it. Either you have to go back to your project management tool, get that data, store that data somewhere in the Excel, and then load that data from an Excel to Power BI. Now, if you're loading an Excel data to Power BI, see, still there are some drawbacks. Now, every time you load an Excel data, it is not possible to set up an incremental refresh. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are aware about incremental refresh. In simple terms, incremental refresh is refreshing the data, which is the latest data. Now, if I take an example, this is our project management tool. This is our Jira. And from this Jira, I want to connect it to the Power BI. Now, this is just an example. I want to connect a data source which is not available in Power BI. So I want to connect it to the Power BI or Power BI desktop. So there is no direct option. There is no direct option. In that case, what we are using, we are saving the data from a project management tool in an Excel file. Now, if I want to save this data in an Excel file, every time I have to go back to the project management tool, update this Excel, and then connect it to the Power BI. Now, even if I'm connecting this to Power BI, there is no option called as incremental refresh. Now, this is one of the widely used feature in Power BI. There is no option called as incremental refresh. Now, what do you mean by incremental refreshes? Assume that you're getting a data for last 5 years. Now, every time it is not required to refresh last 5 years data. Last 4 years of data would be same. The data which is generated last 4 years would be same. Only last 1 year data would be updated frequently. So in case of incremental refresh, we only update this last 1 year data. Now, this incremental refresh option is not enabled for a Excel as a data source. You cannot do that. This is only enabled for the online services from where you connect data to the Power BI as an online data, as a cloud data, as an online service data. Now, this is one of the drawback. If you're connecting Excel, Excel also has certain limitations. Every time you have to go back to the project management tool and refresh that. Similarly, there are few limitations. One is our connectivity from a multiple data sources. This is our limitation. The other limitation is data volume. There is a limitation of data volume. Now, what do you mean by data volume? See, if you're using a Power BI, for a pro, maximum is 10 GB, and for a premium, which is 100 TB. Now, you will rarely come across 1 TB or 100 TB of data in Power BI. Maybe not even 100 TB or not even 1 TB of data at single instance. But still, if you want to connect to Power BI from a specific data source, now let me take an example of cloud only. I'm trying to connect a SQL Server database. Yep. Now, if I come down, see, if I write a query, or maybe if I'm using import or if I'm using direct, there is a certain limit for also. Assume that you are trying to connect a database, which from where the data is coming, data is beyond 10 lakhs. The number of records are beyond 10 lakhs. So if you're trying to connect that data which is beyond 10 lakhs, Power BI will take some 5 or 10 minutes to load that data completely. And there is a very high chance that data load will also fail. Why? Because the data is going beyond certain limit. 10 lakhs data at a single instance, Power BI cannot handle it. See, there are 10 lakh records. It cannot handle it very easily. Power BI cannot handle it very easily. Either you have to break this data in multiple data sets and combine this data all together in Power BI. Now, in that case, how do you handle this data? This is one limitation. Handling large amount of data in Power BI is also one of the limitation. Now, apart from handling multiple data sources, apart from handling multiple services where we want to connect it to the Power BI, the data volume is also one of the limitation. Now, even though you're trying to connect 10 lakh records in one single instance with the breaking the data into 5 different data sets, accepted, you can do that. Still, you can do that. But if you want to clean that data, if you want to clean 10 lakh records, see, you can use your Power Query. Data processing, data complexity, this can be handled with the Power Query instance where we can clean the data. Now, if you want to clean this data, assuming that there are 10 lakh records, it is very difficult for a Power BI developer to go back and analyze how do we clean this data? How do we first see how this data look alike? What are the processes? What are the steps to clean this data? So to make sure the data is clean, we have to see all this 10 lakh records individually, or may not be each and every record, just to get a glance what cleaning is required. So a Power Query can handle up to maximum 1 lakh records where we can easily clean the data. around 1 lakh records are there, yes, we can use a Power Query and we can easily trim, we can easily clean the data. Now, if the number of records are going beyond 1 lakh, it is very difficult from a Power BI developer, or it is very difficult from a Power Query point of perspective to clean the data. So just to make sure all these limitations, these are limitations with respect to data. Power BI is very powerful tool in terms of reporting, in terms of analysis, it is very easier. But to get the data analyzed, we have to clean the data, we have to manage that data in a one single go if the data is very large. Just to get that data managed, just to connect data from multiple data sources, a Power BI has certain limitations. So if you want to come across, if you want to improve the efficiency of Power BI, where there are certain data related limitations, we can use this cloud. Any specific cloud, we can use that cloud services. There are multiple options available in cloud. There is an ETL tool, there is a data cleaning tool, maybe there is a multiple data source connectors where with the help of cloud, we can dump data to a certain storage account and we can use that storage account to connect to the Power BI. Now, the question is, which cloud is the best fit for Power BI? If you're using Power BI, if you are working as a Power BI developer, which one of the cloud is the best fit for Power BI? Azure is the best fit for Power BI. Now, why Azure? Power BI is a product of Microsoft. Azure Cloud is also a product of Microsoft. Both are product of Microsoft, and you want to connect Power BI to Microsoft Azure, it is way more easier. It is way more easier. How is it possible? Say, if I go back to the Power BI, let's see in real time. I'll click on more. I'm trying to connect multiple data sources here. Now, if I come down, see here, you get an option called as Microsoft Fabric. Here you get an option called as Azure. There are many services in Azure which can be directly connected to the Power BI. Either you store data in Azure table storage, Azure blob storage, either you store in an Azure database, Azure SQL database, either you store in Azure Big Data Insights, which is HD Insights storage, either Gen 2, any specific storage you are trying to select from Azure, you can connect it to the Power BI, including your Databricks, including your Synapse. Now, if I take an example of AWS, yes, there are few connectors available for AWS also. If I mention Amazon, see the number of connectors are limited. You can connect it to the Redshift, you can connect it to the Amazon Athena, or you can connect it to the OpenSearch. Now, the same goes with Google. Still, you can use Google Cloud also. I mean, I'm not saying that the Azure Cloud is the only cloud service, but still you can use some other cloud services also. But you can see the number of connectors available in Power BI are limited. For Azure, there are multiple connectors. There is a separate category and you can see how many connectors are there from an Azure. Even the latest introduction of Fabric, even Fabric connectors are available. Now that is why importance of Azure increases if you're working as an Power BI developer, if you're working as a data analyst, if you're working as a BI developer where you're using Power BI as a reporting tool, Azure is the best cloud platform. Both are product of Microsoft and you can connect or you can interrelate both the services easily. Now, just to get an idea why cloud is important, why this cloud services plays an important role. See, this is just an information which is generated globally. This is just an information which is generated globally. And with the increasing data, you can see by 2025, we are in 2024, this is 129, around 130 billions of data is generated. This is the amount of data which is generated, $130 billion, or maybe the volume of data in US dollars, it is mentioned. By 2025, it would be around $175 billion. This is the amount of data we are generating on every daily or maybe yearly basis. Now, with this increase in data means increase in storage. Increase in storage means increase in more devices. Maybe we have to use more and more devices. Rather than using more and more device, we can go with cloud, because Increase in device means more revenue. We have to additionally purchase a device, we are spending additional cost, that is increase in revenue. Revenue is the most important factor which would be considered anywhere. Either you're working, either you're non-working professional, revenue plays an important role. With the increase in device, with the increase in storage, it means increase in revenue. So if you want to decrease this revenue with the increasing data, the cloud is the best platform because you can virtually connect to cloud from anywhere in the world. You can create multiple users, you can connect it to multiple networks. A cloud is the central repository for any data related aspects nowadays. Now, how this cloud importance is, what all cloud services, how is it, how easily we can connect. We have seen an example of Power BI. For an Azure, there are multiple connectors. Now, the question is, I want to connect the Jira related tool. I want to connect a Jira related tool from, my the exact data source is Jira, and I want to connect it to the Power BI. There is no direct connector available. But how do we make sure with the help of cloud we can connect it to the Power BI? See, it is just simple. I'll give you an idea. I'm trying to log in the cloud service. This is my Microsoft Azure cloud service. See, in this cloud service, there is a tool called as Data Factory. If I come down here, there is a tool called as Data Factory. Now, what do you mean by Data Factory? From my end, it might, in this cloud service, there is no Data Factory created. But to just give you an idea, in case of Data Factory, there is a connector called as Jira connector. There is a connector called as Jira connector. This is the exact description, how you can connect a Jira with the help of Azure Data Factory. If I come down, here you can see there is a concept called as linked service in Azure Data Factory. With this linked service, which is nothing but a connectivity mode, you can connect a Jira. Now, how is it possible to connect? Here, there is no direct connection between Jira and Power BI. Now, in that case, what we will do, we'll use intermediate mode of connection, which is cloud. Rather than dumping data to the Excel, we can use an intermediate mode of connection, which is nothing but a cloud. Now, how is it possible? Let's take an example. See, there is a service called as ADF. ADF is nothing but a ETL tool. It's an ETL cloud-based Azure platform-based ETL tool. Now, ETL means extracting the data from Jira, transforming data. Transforming means any cleaning of data is required. We can clean that data and then we can load that data to the Power BI. Now, this ETL can be done with the help of ADF. ADF will act like an intermediate source between Jira and Power BI. Now, in this ADF, there are options called as linked service. Linked service is nothing but it is trying to link this Jira. When you link this Jira to the ADF tool, it will load, it will extract the data, it will transform the data. And at the end, where do we load it? Somewhere, if I take Power BI, there are multiple storage options. Either I will load that transformed or extracted data from Jira to blob storage, either table storage, either data explorer, either data lake. Wherever I want, I can store that data and pull it to the Power BI. It is very easy. Extract the data, transform it wherever you want to clean that, and load it in one of the storage services available in Azure. Now, this is just an example. If you want to connect it to the any specific data science environments, data science connectors also, there are not available. There is no direct connector. You have to connect it via ADF only. ADF is one of the widely used ETL tool nowadays. Not with only respect to Power BI. If you're working with any other tool also, if you're working with some other reporting tool as well, ETL is important. Understanding of ETL is important. Now, if you're using an ETL, you cannot go with on-premise ETL. As we have seen a drawback of on-premise, see, for on-premise systems, you have to use that same laptop. You have to connect it via offline mode only. Maybe if you're traveling some other location, your on-premise tool is installed in certain location. Maybe it will only run if it is connected to certain VPN only. In that case, that is one drawback. You cannot connect it to any other Wi-Fi network. But if you use an ETL, which is a cloud-based tool, it is very easier to connect from anywhere. You're working from any part in the world, it is very easier to connect. Now, ADF, it's a cloud-based ETL tool. This is simply an example. Now, apart from ADF, there are multiple services which are available in Azure. There are multiple services. This is just an example. If I go to all the services, you can see there are multiple services available in Azure. Now, from a Power BI point of perspective, are we going to learn all the services? No. I mean, each and every service has its own behavior. Each and every service has its own characteristics. From a Power BI, from a data analyst point of perspective, what all services are important, I would be explaining. But if you're working as a data analyst, this is how the flow of data is. Somewhere I've given you an idea in the whiteboard also, but here everything is mentioned in detail. See, where if you're working as a data analyst or a BI expert, somewhere the data is coming from. You are extracting that data, you are cleaning the data here, and then you're loading it to certain storage. Now, this storage is also cloud. Whatever storage we are taking, this storage is also cloud. Whatever storage I'm trying to take, this storage is also cloud. The data warehouse, this is also a cloud. Now, if you are extracting data from multiple data sources, if you take an example of SQL Server, this is a cloud-based database. If you take an example of SAP, this is a cloud-based ERP service, employee resource management service. If you take an example of Oracle, this is a cloud-based tool, cloud-based PL SQL tool. See, you can connect a text file, you can connect a CSV file, you can connect an Excel file, but every time you will not get data in these files because these are on-premise systems. You cannot go back and update the Excel data frequently. But whereas if you are trying to connect the data from the source, which is connected to cloud, it is very easier because the data is frequently updating there and there is no manual intervention required if you connect this cloud-based service to our reporting tool. But there are limitations. You cannot directly connect. In Power BI, there are no direct connectors available for many of the tools. So in that case, the picture of ETL comes in. And if you're using a ETL, you are trying to connect from a cloud, and then also once you clean that data, you will dump that data to a cloud-based storage only, which is data warehouse or any specific storage tool. So in both the cases, cloud is used. Source as a cloud, and once you take that source and you dump it to certain storage account is also a cloud. The storage account is also a cloud. And then you connect the storage account to your reporting, which is frequently consumed by the business users for improving their business. Now, till now, we have seen the importance of a cloud. Where do we use a cloud? How cloud is important? But to get started with, what is the exact infrastructure of a cloud? Now, if I take an example, see, I'm taking an example of a car. Now, if you're owning a car and you want to travel, now, if you want to travel, if you have your own car, that means you have your own on-premise solution. You have your own car, you are managing that car and you can drive it. Now, if you take a leased car, it is called as IaaS. Now, what do you mean by IaaS? The cloud infrastructure is basically divided into three different environments. One is IaaS, one is PaaS, and one is SaaS. IaaS is called as infrastructure as a cloud. PaaS is called as a platform as a cloud, and SaaS is called as a software as a service. Now, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and platform as a service. Now, what all these services are? See, if you're owning a car and you want to travel, you have to drive it because you are the owner of that car. You have to take care about the car. You have to take care about maintenance. All the services you have to take care. Whereas if you take a leased car is not owned by you. Only thing is you have to drive it. In that case, infrastructure is, you're not owning that infrastructure. You're taking that infrastructure on a lease. So that is called as infrastructure as a service. You get an infrastructure and you utilize that car. Whereas if you are using a taxi is also an infrastructure. It is an asset. The taxi which is driving or which is helping you to drop to certain destination, it is also an asset. But you're not driving that taxi. You are only utilizing that taxi for travel. That means you are getting a platform, but you are only utilizing it not by driving. So here in case of taxi, it is called as platform. You are getting a platform. With this platform, you are traveling from one location to another location. Whereas if at all it's a bus, in case of bus, you will only sit in the bus will drop you at that location. In case of taxi, see, only you would be the individual who are utilizing this taxi. In case of bus, there could be multiple individuals. It can be connected to multiple individuals, or that means multiple individuals can consume the same bus service, can utilize this same bus service, that which is called as software as a service. It is just a software which can be consumed by multiple people. In case of taxi, it can be consumed by only one individual or maybe only one family. Now, same goes with a leased car. It can be consumed with a one family, but you have to drive that car. Maybe you are not the owner. You'll get that infrastructure of a car and you have to drive it. In case of taxi, you are getting infrastructure, you are getting platform, but you're not getting software as a service, but you're not getting a service here. The software service is not available. You have to, I mean, the driver have to drive it. In case of bus, it can be consumed by multiple people. That is why it is called as a software as a service. Now, maybe this is a bit confused. If I take the next example, it would be more clear idea. See, you want to travel abroad. You want to travel abroad. Now, in case of on-premise, accommodation you have to take care, luggage you have to take care, transport you have to take care. How do you travel? You have to take care. Maybe if you want to travel abroad, the concept of visa comes into picture. Then only the concept of medical insurance, because somewhere visa is related to medical insurance. If you want to travel within the country, ticket booking you have to take care. And if you're traveling to certain location, your food, your entertainment you have to take care. And apart from food and entertainment, why are you traveling? For sightseeing, maybe visit places. All these processes you have to take care by independently. Whereas if you use any of these services, assume that you're using bus and train or by plane, here it is vice versa. You'll get certain idea. You are getting infrastructure here. You are getting plane as an infrastructure. You are getting bus as an infrastructure. You are getting train as an infrastructure, where accommodation, luggage transfer, transport, and routing, all this is taken care by these services. Only you have to take care about this stuff. Now, if you take platform as a service, in case of platform, food and entertainment and sightseeing is the only stuff which you have to take care. Now, this is with respect to service. Travel as a service in cloud. This is travel as a service in cloud. Now, how these services are broadly classified: infrastructure, where you will get an infrastructure; platform, where you get a platform, where you get infrastructure also, but you will not get any software here. Now, in case of software as a service, nothing you have to do, everything you will get in one single go. You have to utilize each and every software efficiently. In case of infrastructure, we only get infrastructure. In case of platform, we only get platform. In case of software, everything is automatically built. Only thing is you have to go back and consume that software efficiently. Now, if you take an example of cloud services with respect to infrastructure, see, if you create a VM, VM is an infrastructure as a service. VM is virtual machine. You want to create a virtual machine in cloud. Now, if you create a virtual machine, we get complete infrastructure of that machine. You can increase the size of that virtual machine. You can change the operating system. If you want to create virtual machine as a service, you can change operating system from Windows to Linux, from Linux to whatever operating system is available in that cloud. So all that infrastructure can be managed by you. Virtual machine is an infrastructure as a service which is available in cloud. Now, if you take platform as a service, ADF is called as a platform as a service. Now, why ADF is called as a platform as a service? In ADF, you get a platform where you can do ETL, where you can extract, transform, and load that data. You are getting a platform to extract the data, you are getting a platform to load, and you are getting a platform to clean or transform that data. Whereas if you take an example of software as a service, storage account. What do you mean by storage account? We are not managing anything in storage account. We have only created a storage account, and whatever you dump in storage account can be connected to multiple data sources. That means it is just a software. Storage account is just a memory software where all the data is dumped and you can connect it to any specific reporting tool. Now, this is how the cloud service works. Every service available in cloud is broadly classified into three different categories. Either you'll get infrastructure as a service, either you get platform as a service, or either you get software as a service. Now, once you dig deep into this cloud, we would be getting we would be getting certain idea how this cloud service will work. But to get a start with, you have to first understand how a cloud infrastructure is. So this is travel as a service. You want to combine with the cloud. Virtual machine is infrastructure, ADF is platform, and any storage account is called as a software as a service. Any storage account is called as a software as a service. Now, let me head over to the cloud to give you more insights. See here, as and when there are multiple services, if I go to compute, you can clearly see infrastructure as a service, virtual machines. If I come down, platform as a service. Now, in case of platform as a service, there are only few services listed, but we have to go back and see what each service is. If you're using an app service, if you're using a VMware solution, you're using virtual instances, all these are platform as a service. And apart from this, whatever services are listed in compute below, these all services are software as a service. Maybe if you take an example of database, these are all software as a service. They're all software as a service. Now, if you get a good understanding of which service is infrastructure, which service is platform, and which service is software, for a cloud point of perspective, you are a very good cloud, maybe cloud administrator, or maybe a cloud individual who knows how services work in a cloud. Now, in detail, yes, we would be discussing each and every service which are required for a Power BI developer in detail. Now, what all services we would be learning in this session, or maybe in this course, we would be starting with ADF. First, we would be starting with basics of Azure infrastructure. How Azure cloud is, how can we utilize it for our data analyst point of perspective, that I'm going to share. Once that is done, we would be starting with ADF. See, most of our this course is somewhere broadly divided, or maybe it will take around 30 to 40 days. Maximum we have kept it to 40. Maybe it will not even take 40 also. 30 days is more than enough. If at all there is a requirement, if it is going beyond 30 days, I would recommend, or maybe I would take 40 days. But approximately 30 to 40 days, most of our information would be based on ADF, the Azure Data Factory, because this is the must, or this is, if you take any opening nowadays, this ETL tool is widely consumed. The Azure Data Factory is widely consumed, and this tool is, very easier to learn as compared to any other ETL tool. If you compare it with Informatica is also one of the powerful tool. It's one of the powerful ETL tool, but Informatica earlier was an on-premise tool. It was not a cloud-based tool. Now Informatica have moved up to Informatica Cloud, IIPL. But even though it is moving to the cloud, there are many drawbacks, and Informatica is a bit complex to learn. It's one of the complex ETL tool to learn, but if you compare it with ADF, it is way more easier. It is a purely a cloud-based Informatica. The data factory, Azure Data Factory, when was it introduced? It was purely a cloud-based tool. Now, apart from ADF, our most chunk in this 30 days, you would be learning 15 days of ADF. Now, 15 days in the sense, around 10 to 12 sessions would be on ADF only. Most probably on ADF. With the help of ADF, See, if you're using an ADF, you will come across this service called as Azure Key Vault. You will come across a service called as Azure Service Principal, or which is nothing but an app registration. Now, along with ADF, you would be also coming across a situation where you need to create a SQL server and connect that SQL server to an ADF. So there are dependent services on ADF: keyword, app registrations, SQL server, and storage account. These are all independent services. With these independent services, you need to club with the ADF. Why? Because in ADF, we can use storage account. In ADF, we can use SQL servers. In ADF, we can use app registrations. In ADF, we can use Azure Key Vaults. So along with ADF, in our 15 days, all these services would be covered. This chunk of data, all these services would be covered. Now, once that is done, from a data analyst point of perspective, it is also important to learn Databricks. Now, what do you mean by Databricks? It's a big data platform. See, if your data is very large, now in case of Power BI also, if the data is large, then only we are moving to the data factory. But in data factory also, if at all the data is going beyond certain limit, it will take some time to process that data. Now, in that case, you can use this Databricks here. Now, how Databricks will benefit? It's a big data cloud-based platform. In case of Databricks, data is breakdown into multiple parallel processing data. These are called as nodes. The data is bifurcated into multiple nodes, and every node will process large data parallelly. The data would be breaked into multiple nodes. If at all you are working on 10 GB of file, this 10 GB of file is broken down into 2 GBs in 5 different partitions. Every partition is called as one node. So one node will process 2 GB parallelly, one node will process 2 GB parallelly. This is how Databricks will help us to improve the data, improve the performance. Now, if you know ADF, if you know Databricks, Synapse is a combination of all these services in one platform. See, all these services are independent services. You have to create independent services. You have to create ADF separately. You have to create keyword separately. You have to create app registration. You have to create SQL database. You have to create storage account, and you have to create Azure Databricks as a notebook. Here, the information is stored in the notebook. In Databricks, the information is stored in the notebook. Notebook is nothing but your uh, just like your notebook where you write your small queries and you process the data in multiple nodes. So Synapse is a combination of all these services in one single platform. You can combine all these services in one single platform and you can utilize it as a Synapse infrastructure. So Databricks for a data analyst, Synapse for a data analyst, whatever is required that we would be covering. And at the last, we would be also covering logic apps. Now, what do you mean by logic apps? It is just an extension of Power Automate. Power Automate, where we can create multiple flows and get the data. Same process is used in logic apps. Power Automate is a Power Platform based service where we have to purchase Power Platform subscription. Whereas if you log into Azure, you can simply utilize your logic apps, which is 99.9% similar to Power Automate. So it's almost 100%. There is only slight difference between Power Automate and logic apps. That slight difference is Power Automate is a part and parcel of Power Platform environment, and logic apps is a part of cloud-based environment. So for cloud app, I mean logic apps also, we would be learning wherever this logic apps can be used from a data analyst point of perspective. So 15 days more a kind of Azure data factory, and next 10 days or maybe next 15 days would be more a kind of all other services clubbed together. So if you know these services, this will be more than enough. This will be an impactful from a data analyst point of perspective. You know all these cloud-based services. You can utilize this to improve, to fasten our process. Now the question is about Fabric. Till now, we have seen what do you mean by cloud, how cloud is important. If you're taking an example of Fabric, Fabric is a combination of all these cloud services in one single platform. They have also merged Power BI to this Fabric. Now, for first 60 days, you will get free Fabric license. That means you can utilize all these Fabric services for first 60 days. After 60 days, how do we use this Fabric? Fabric is also part and parcel of cloud only. You want to use this Fabric? How Fabric is utilized? Come down to Azure. See, 60 days you are getting Fabric for free. After 60 days, there is a concept called as SKUs in Fabric. What do you mean by SKUs? It is nothing but a stock keeping unit. If you want to store something in Fabric, that means it would be stored in SKU. That SKU you have to purchase. And how do you purchase it? See, I'm in the Azure portal. In this Azure portal, there is a service called as Fabric. Unless you create this Fabric, after 60 days, you have to create this Fabric service. Then only you can utilize this Fabric. So Fabric is also part and parcel of cloud. Even though all these services which are clubbed together in Fabric, these are all the services, data factory, data engineering, data warehouse, all these Azure services are clubbed in one single Microsoft Fabric platform. But to activate this platform after 60 days of trial, you have to use this Fabric capacity. Now, if you see here, these are SKUs. F2, F4, F8, F16, F32, F64. These are all SKUs. Now, if you simply take a look at this cost, if you are creating Fabric with the minimum SKU, which is capacity units 2, F2, monthly you have to spend 24,000. Now, the question is it beneficial to spend 24,000 on this Fabric capacity? See, if you create this Fabric F2, even if you don't use, you have to spend 24,000. Whereas all these services which are available in Fabric, if you independently use this service, if you are independently using this service for Azure Data Factory, maximum you can consume or maximum you can spend 1,000 rupees per month. If you're using Azure Data Engineering, you can spend maximum of 5,000 rupees per month. Even data warehouse, you can spend 1,000 rupees per month. If you're using data science, again, 5,000 rupees per month. So somewhere, if you independently create service, see, if you don't want to use this data science, skip this, 5,000 would be saved. If you don't want to use data engineering, skip this, 5,000 would be saved. But if you create a Fabric, in case of Fabric, there is no flexibility available. If you create that SKUs, even if you don't use, you have to pay for all these services. You have to definitely pay for all these services. For Power BI, we can use premium per user, PPU license, premium per user license, which is $20 per user per month. For a pro, it is $10 per user per month. For premium per capacity, PPC, it is $4,995. That means in premium per capacity, you can add more than 300 members also. So if you're independently creating services, it would be cost efficient. But if you want to create a Fabric capacity, you have to definitely create it if you're utilizing each and every service in Fabric. And with the minimum, you have to spend 25,000. See, most of the organizations would require F32 or F64, which is around 3,88,000 or 7,77,000 per month. That is how costly Fabric is. Now, I'm not saying that organizations are not using Fabric, but in most of the openings, they will mention you need to understand, you need to know Fabric environment. So first question you have to ask that interviewer that, yeah, I can learn Fabric. It is not difficult because I know Microsoft Azure. Every services which can be clubbed from a data analyst from a data science point of perspective are all available in Fabric. But the thing is, Fabric is very costly. Is it that your organization using Fabric on monthly basis? If yes, what is the SKU you are utilizing. See, they will always get confused there. You need to confuse that interviewer that are you using SKUs? Are you using Fabric as a uh, paid service? If you're using, what is the monthly amount you're spending? If you're working in a single project, if that project has a very high billing, even for that high billing, they will never come down to F32 or F64. So now, maybe whenever was, I mean, if you go back, Fabric was introduced around February or March last year only. So from that point till today, 2024, with the introduction of Fabric, it will take time. Maybe these revenue or the amount which is mentioned here, some or other day this will decrease. I'm not saying this will go on increasing. Some or other day the amount will definitely decrease, but till that time you have to learn every service independently in cloud. And then if you learn each and every service, see, I've taken an example of ADF. In ADF you can create pipelines. The same pipeline can be created in Fabric. How is it possible? Let me show you. Now, this is our Power BI environment. In Power BI environment only, because Power BI is a part and parcel of Fabric. In this environment only, you will get Fabric. If I click on this icon Power BI towards left, this is the Fabric. If I click here, this is our Fabric environment. Now, that same data factory pipelines can be created here. You have an option called as data pipeline. So if you directly come here to Fabric and create a data pipeline, it is very difficult to understand. Now, if I click on create, see, I'm trying to create a pipeline. It is asking me the name of that pipeline, test pipeline. Once it will load, see, this is the UI of a data factory in Fabric. If you come down to Fabric and learn Azure Data Factory, it will almost take 2 to 3 months to understand what is exact data factory. But if you learn the same data factory using cloud, it is very easier, because the UI of Azure Data Factory is way more easy, way more understandable. See, this is the UI. For a data factory, this is the UI. In cloud, you have many options. These options are not available in. Now you can see in case of ADF, there are multiple activities. If I come down, see, there are few activities which are listed here. Now you have to click here and then find all other activities. So UI is not that great. So the thing is, first learn service from an Azure. That same service can be utilized here in Fabric. Fabric is nothing but a cloud-based platform where all the services are clubbed in one single platform. That's it. So there is no much difference, not much difference from each and every service which can be learned. See, if you want data engineering, you can learn the data engineering in Azure portal. In Azure portal, it is easier to understand what service you want to create in data engineering. You can simply go and create that service. Maybe Databricks is a data engineering service. So there is an option called as Databricks, Azure Databricks. You can go here, create Azure Databricks. Whichever service is independently required, that flexibility you get in cloud. In case of Fabric, all these services are clubbed. So Fabric is costly. You can still utilize that Fabric, but the thing is, if it is asked in interviews, now just because they have launched Microsoft have launched Fabric, companies directly mention Fabric. You have to know Fabric. How a person with last, I mean, this product is still in development phase. So how a person, when this product was launched with not even 1 year experience, will understand Fabric end to end? That is very difficult. So just to make sure, you need to understand Fabric end to end. That means you need to learn Azure services independently. Then only you can consume this Fabric easily. Now, the exact idea for this course is, who can take up this course? Person with reporting knowledge. Person with reporting knowledge. Recommended is for Power BI. Now, there are multiple reporting tools. There are ClickView. There is Tableau. There is MicroStrategy. There is Hisense, Sisense. There is some Sisense tool. See, all these tools are reporting tools. But if you use this Sisense, if you use this Tableau, if you use this MicroStrategy, still you can learn cloud. But from a Power BI point of perspective, if you have learned Power BI and you're not getting a good role in Power BI, first and foremost thing, you have to learn cloud, because this is an added advantage. It will improve the performance of Power BI. You can connect it to multiple data sources. We have seen at the start, we can clean that data in the any specific cloud-based service and then connect it to Power BI. Now, is it that only person with Power BI can learn Azure? See, if you're working as a database developer, if you're working as a SQL developer, for you also cloud is important, because SQL Server can be created in cloud, the Microsoft SQL Server, even the Oracle. It's a PL SQL cloud-based tool. Even this Oracle is a cloud-based database. So if you're working as a database analyst, if you're working as a database developer also, he can learn this tool. Now, apart from this, if you're working as a BA, maybe BA or an Excel expert along with BI engineer, you can learn this, or you can get this as your information, which will definitely benefit. No, with this, I'm good. I'm open for questions. If you have any questions, see, we have only started with the introduction of Azure, what importance of cloud is, how the infrastructure for cloud is. Going deep, you will understand how all these services can be utilized in cloud. Yep. I'm open for questions. Anyone who has a question, you want to, you have stuck somewhere, you have a certain, you are in a dilemma that how this would be beneficial. Yeah, I would be happy to answer.
Hi Ritesh, how are you?
Hey, hi. Thank you. Thanks for asking. I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. I'm just asking, so we are going to learn each and every service of Azure like independently, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, okay. So then we can easily consume in like under my
Fabric.
Fabric, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
See, if you take here an example, this data factory is present here. If I come down, this storage services, data warehouses is nothing but your storage services. If I come down to Databricks is nothing but your data engineering. Synapse is nothing but your data engineering. Now, in case of data sciences, there are few AI ML models. Now, for a data analyst, they will never ask you to learn this machine learning. Just to get an idea, I'll show you how data science will work. These environments are somewhere similar, these two, data engineering and data science. Now, what do you mean by real-time analytics? Your real-time data which you're consuming on daily basis, that can also be clubbed in a different service called as real-time analytics. Your logic apps can be clubbed here. And at the last, reporting tool, which is nothing but your Power BI.
Yeah, hi Ritesh. Good morning. I have one query. Like, what are all the services are you going to cover in this course, like Azure services?
This is one service. This is second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Eight different services we would be covering. Now, along with these eight, there are few other services which can be, which are somewhere dependent. Now, just like alerts. Alert is also a service. Manage alerts for any specific service. Manage your subscription. That is also one service. So all this interdependent services which we would be learning along with these services, but primarily eight different services we would be learning.
Okay,
So
thank you.
in Power BI, we have option of like Azure machine learning. So it comes under a data science or
If you come down, in case of Power BI, you're asking,
yeah.
where is that option? See, there is an option called as R script. There is an option called as Python visual. These two visuals are related to machine learning. If you
Okay.
want to analyze your R script, your R language model, you can
Okay.
get that model. But the thing is, you have to download R module, R connector in Power BI and utilize that. Or maybe you have to download Python installer also. So these two are the only visuals which are used by data science folks. Apart from these two, all other visuals are used by data analyst only. Now, there is an option here, AI visuals, artificial intelligence visuals. Still, these visuals are used by the data analyst only, not the data science guys. See, there is an option. You want to consume your machine learning model information. You want to get that data in Power BI. You can use your Databricks. You can use your Synapse, or maybe you can use your ADF. Dump that data to some storage account or data warehouse and get that data here directly. With the connectors available, you can get the data. See, for a Databricks also, there is an option to connect Databricks. You can directly connect Databricks. You can directly connect Synapse, because these are all services related to Azure. See, specifically Azure Synapse. Synapse is specifically to Azure Synapse. So whatever services are available in Azure, most of the services can be directly connected to the Power BI.
So we cannot. Uh, so can we connect a Power BI directly to Azure Data Factory, or just through we need a connector like blob storage or
So if I come down, Data Factory is just an ETL tool.
yeah.
Now, in case of Databricks, you have your own storage. In Databricks, there is no requirement to create a storage. If you create a Databricks environment, a storage would be automatically created. If you create a Synapse, a storage would be automatically created. So that is why Synapse option, Databricks option is directly coming. In case of Data Factory, a storage option is not there. Default storage option is not there. So whatever you do in Data Factory, somewhere you will dump. Somewhere you'll dump. Now, somewhere means in any of the storage account. Any of the storage account you can dump.
Like Azure SQL Server or
Yep. Azure SQL Server, or your storage account, or your data lakes, or your blob services, or table storage, anywhere. If you use even Azure Cosmos also, this is a NoSQL database. You can use this as well.
Ritesh, on top of have one query.
Mhm.
Like in Azure Cosmos DB, we will enable Azure Synapse Link and we will consume the data in Azure Synapse Link, right? Same way, can we able to enable Azure, Azure Synapse Link for Azure SQL, Azure SQL database, I mean it.
Yep. See, if you want to create a Azure Synapse infrastructure or Azure Synapse environment, it will ask you to create SQL pool there. For Synapse, if
Yes.
you're creating, there are two pools, serverless and dedicated. So if you want serverless, which is default available, you need not maintain that pool. But if you want your own dedicated pool, pool means nothing but your SQL server, SQL database. In Synapse, it is called a SQL pool. So still
Yeah.
you can connect that SQL pool to uh, Power BI. Directly you want to connect, yes. If you mention that SQL pool is nothing but your SQL server database. You can connect that pool directly.
Through Azure Synapse Analytics, right?
Either you can connect Azure Synapse Analytics this way, or else the pool which you're creating in Synapse, that is nothing
Okay.
but your SQL server only. You can use this option also. You can use this option also.
And one more question. Recently, we observed like many times they are asking Python also, right? Like for Power BI developers, where we are using Python and all.
Okay. Now the Python is, see, yes, definitely. If you want to learn more insights related to Databricks, see, I would be giving you an idea about Databricks. I would be giving you an idea about Synapse. But if you want to create notebooks, if you want to write all these notebooks, the concept of PySpark will come into picture. Now, PySpark is nothing but Spark is nothing but a API, and Py is nothing but your Python. Your Python, you're combining with Spark API, and you're processing that, or you're writing that query. So maybe I would not teach you in depth of Databricks, how Databricks can be utilized. That would be more a kind of data engineering. But from a data analyst point of perspective, how to break data if the data is very large in data factory, yes, that I would be explaining with the Databricks. So infrastructure of Databricks, you would be getting an idea. How to break that data, you would be getting an idea. But if you want to learn in depth of Databricks and Synapse, that is more a kind of data engineering. For that, the course is different. There no Power BI, there no SQL would be there. It would be pure data engineering.
Okay.
so which programming language is required? Python?
Yes. If you want to learn in depth of Databricks, in depth of Synapse, Python is required. That would be more a kind of data engineering role, not a data analyst role. Any other questions? See, this batch we have already started. To be to get give you an idea, we have already completed SQL and Power BI, and we are starting with Azure. So there are people who have completed SQL and Power BI, and they would be moving to this course. Along with, we have multiple requests that we are. I mean, we have already completed Power BI in last 1 year, but we are not getting the exact job here, or maybe the exact skill set which companies are looking. So we only want to learn Azure. For that, for these folks, this was the basic idea what this course would be about. Now, starting tomorrow, we would be directly jumping into the course, and we would be getting started with the data factory and data related aspects in cloud. So the one who wants to learn Azure from a data analyst point of perspective, this course is for them. If you want to learn as a data engineer, there is a different course in KSR that would be purely data engineering course. Now there more than 20 services would be covered, and that too every service in depth. Why? Because for a data engineer, Power BI is not important. Processing the data is important. Now this would be more a kind of BI role. This would be more a kind of BI along with cloud, BI along with ADF, BI along with, or Power BI along with ADF.
Yes, a lot of companies they are asking for cloud for nowadays. Yeah.
Hmm. Any other question? I mean, anything related to this course, anything related to Azure, you have a question from a Power BI point of perspective? Yes, I'm happy to answer.
Sir, Azure SQL Server or SQL Server Management System both are a cloud-based
Yep.
databases.
Yes, both of them are cloud-based databases. Now, if you go back, this is our SQL Server, and this is our SQL database, and there is a service called as Azure SQL also. Both are same. I mean, not much difference. Both are same. See, Azure SQL database. Azure database for SQL servers, or MySQL servers, or even your SQL servers, or else Azure SQL. Now, both are the same services. See, I am in the Azure SQL. It is still prompting the SQL server which I have created. So they might have given different names, but both the services are same. Name is different. That's it.
For practicing purpose, can we get this Azure portal access and all?
See, once you enroll for this course, how to activate your Azure portal, you need your work domain email IDs. With your Gmail, it is very difficult to access. Still, you can access with your Gmail with this Azure portal. But the thing is, you have to justify that I'm using it for myself. You're not using it for any other organization. If you're using for organization, you have to mention your org email ID. So we would be providing you the org email IDs. How to activate this Azure portal, I will definitely show you. It's a simple process. Now the thing is, who have already I mean, they people who are already part of this Power BI and SQL course with this, they already know how to activate it. One who would be joining as only for Azure, I would definitely show that. But apart from this, you also need your Fabric to be activated. Now in case of Fabric, you cannot activate your Power BI with the help of your Gmail email IDs. For case of Fabric, you need to have your KSR email ID. So we would be providing you the KSR email IDs, and your 60 days pro and premium would also be given, under which you can utilize it for Fabric as well.
Okay.
Sir, is it Python required for now Databricks and Synapse or not
See,
for?
basic information I would be giving you while we touch base this Synapse and Databricks. A very basic information. And see, if I train Java now, for you, it would take 3 months to understand, just to get an idea. But if I train Python, it will only take 3 minutes to understand. Python is simpler. I will only give you idea how this Python can be used. How to combine that Python with Spark? Now, if you're using Databricks, Spark comes into picture. If you're using Synapse, Spark comes into picture. So how Spark is, what all data, I mean, what all APIs, I mean, Spark is just an API. Under this Spark, there are multiple sub APIs, like your data frames, your data sets, your RDDs. How is it explained? Now, while explaining only, I'll give you an idea about Python. See, we would be learning from a data analyst point of perspective. That means you would not learn end-to-end Databricks here. You will only learn how to break down the data. Any other question? So silence, I'm taking it as no. See, you would be getting 5 sessions free. Now in that 5 sessions also, we would be starting directly with Data Factory. Now the thing is, if you still have a question that in these 5 sessions, or if I'm starting with Data Factory, how do I activate the Data Factory account? For next 5 or 4 sessions, you would not require to activate Data Factory on the day one, or maybe in these 4 days also. If you just get an idea, if you just look at how this cloud feels, how this cloud works, which is more than enough. Once you are at a position, I'll explain, or I'll maybe inform you how to activate your Azure portal. At that instance, you can activate your Azure portal.
Sir, when we will have a first class, like Monday or?
I mean, today also it's a session. Maybe it will look
Yeah, yeah.
more look like a demo only. But to get an idea how services are there in cloud, I've given you an idea. Starting tomorrow, it would be directly jumping to the cloud only, your Azure portal only. Okay, cool. Then if there are no questions, if you still have a question, the one who are new, who wants to join to this course, always, if you have any other question, try to connect with the KSR team. You can always visit our website, the KSR website. So if you visit this website, in this website, there is an option called as contact. Either you can contact here, you can post your query here, you can send it via WhatsApp chat, you can directly call us, you can email us. Any contact option is available. One of us, or maybe one of us, or maybe even Mahesh will directly connect with you if you have any other questions related to this course. Yep, with this, I'm good. Let's connect back tomorrow with the further cloud insights or cloud sessions. Yep, thank you everyone. Have a very good day.